You okay, Jamie?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, we're now live streaming on YouTube.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Richmond Hill. I would ask that we start this evening's meeting with the reading of the preamble, please.
Today's Committee of Adjustment meeting is hereby held as an electronic meeting. The Committee of Adjustment for the City of Richmond Hill has been appointed by Council to consider applications for minor variance and consent in accordance with the Planning Act. Committee's decision may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal. All appeals and associated fees must be filed directly with the Secretary Treasurer in accordance with the Planning Act. To be notified of an Ontario Land Tribunal hearing, you must request a copy of the committee's decision in writing. Written comments: the public may submit written correspondence regarding agenda matters by email to committeeofadjustment@richmondhill.ca. All written correspondence received by 4:30 p.m. today has been provided to the committee members electronically. Electronic delegations. Delegates are reminded to please mute your microphone or phone and turn off video until it is your turn to speak. Please make sure your microphone is not muted when you begin speaking. If members do not have questions or after all questions have been asked, your delegation is over. Please sign off of Zoom or hang up the phone once the committee has made a decision on your application. You can watch the rest of the meeting on our live stream, and the clerk may remove any delegate who does not sign off of Zoom.
Our Secretary Treasurer is Mrs. Jamie Hope Herman, and our Assistant Secretary Treasurer is Ms. Linda Asikas, and assisting us this evening from our Planning Department is Ms. Simone Fiore. Do we have any conflicts of interest this evening, gentlemen? I see none. And do we have any requests for adjournment or withdrawals?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Very good. I will call the first application A034/22 at 11990 Leslie Street. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Mr. Chair, yes. We have a comment letter received from the TRCA on June 22nd, 2022.
Thank you. And our applicant.
Right here. Dennis Starsky, Matt Starsky brothers.
Go ahead.
Good evening, members of the committee. Good evening, Chair. The purpose of this application is to allow us to finalize our site plan application for house we are hoping to build for our family on the large land farm property in Leslie and Stouffville area. The purpose of the minor variance amendment is to allow us to go with a larger floor area of the house. The existing zoning provisions are significantly smaller than what we are proposing. However, we are hoping for the committee to look at it in an appropriate context. The property is 43 acres in size. The house we are proposing to build, while it exceeds the maximum ground floor plate, represents less than 1% coverage of the lot. So it's tiny as compared to the lot size. It is substantially set back from any of the neighboring properties. So we are not going to be creating a problem of additional proximity to any of our neighbors. The area is rural, it's countryside, Oak Ridges Moraine. We are owners of this property for just over 10 years now. It was purchased back in 2012 by our family with a vision of building a house in there. We are currently residing in a multi-generational household structure where it's me and my brother. We both married with kids, and our parents. We live under the same roof. Historically, we have always lived under the same roof, and we're hoping to carry on living under the same roof for years to come, at least until our kids change their mind, because you can't dictate to your kids what to do, and they're free to do what they want. We do have private challenges. It's stated in application. I'm not sure if I need to repeat it for the recorded public meeting, but there are reasons why we stick together. One of my children, one of my brother's children are on a autism spectrum disorder, and staying together helps us while being fully employed, also take care of the additional needs of the kids, and also taking care of our aging parents. The house is designed larger than the initial standard zoning provision to allow us for sufficient privacy within the house, yet sufficient joint place to function as a family properly. That's pretty much the essence of it.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 11990 Leslie Street?
To you, Mr. Chair, we have none.
And do we have any further comments from our planning department?
No further comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And if I might comment, I'm very impressed with this house. It looks gorgeous, so I think I'm going to be anxious to watch it grow over the next little while. I can't imagine it's going to be done quickly, not something that size, but anyhow, I will ask our committee members if they have any questions or comments. Mr. Duretzi.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of questions in terms of any updates that might be required for the stormwater management report mentioned by the Conservation Authority, if it is required, and just what the status of that might be, number one. And if this property is on any services, or is it a well and septic? Just questions.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yep.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have already replied to today's letter, comments letter to TRCA, to TRCA planner. The existing provided stormwater management report was including the area of the solarium, because solarium was enclosed from the initials. There were 4 resubmissions of the changes as per town's City of Richmond Hill, comments. But the overall layout of the house didn't really change. So the solarium was always part of it. We have to, and that actually ties up into the second question about the servicing. We have to provide a pool, even though I don't swim, but we have to provide a pool because this is a fire safety water storage solution. The property is on well and septic, so we already obtained approvals from the Ministry of the Environment for our septic system design. The permit has been obtained, I believe, last year for the design system. We also obtained permit from the TRCA. That's actually part of their reply, and we sent to them an excerpt of the stormwater management report and the architectural statistics clearly showing that the building area, so the area which is not going to be permeable surface, is included in the stormwater management calculations. They're actually going over and beyond. We have 1,800 square meters, and the report is taking into consideration 2,300 square meters, because we do have a couple of auxiliary old buildings on the farm, like barns. So they include that and kind of mark up the potential ground area of the buildings on the property. So that's already included.
Thank you for clarifying. I have no further questions.
Any other questions, gentlemen? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Master.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that application number A034/22, located at 11990 Leslie Street, be approved with all the conditions contained therein.
Moved by member Master, seconded by member Duretzi. All in favor? I see 4 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, members of the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Our next application is application A011/22 at 209 Sussex Avenue. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
And our applicant.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nicole, and I'm the agent for my client at 209 Sussex Avenue. We're here asking today relief for 3 variances. The reason that we're asking for these is similar to the previous client. My client is intending to build a home for themselves and for their family. They have 2 children. They are very eager to get this project going, and they need a slightly larger home than what's allowed. I did do a little bit of research in the area, and I found a similar approval at 212 Sussex Avenue. So we're not asking for anything that's outside of the norm of the street. As well, there were some requests made by the forestry department, as well as by planning staff earlier in the year, of all of which we've complied without any problem whatsoever. And we will continue to work with the city to get approval and to get this house built so that my clients can live in it and and enjoy some COVID-free living. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 209 Sussex Avenue?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
And any further comments from our planning department?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no further comments.
And gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? I see none. I will ask for a motion. Mr. Gossi.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to raise a motion regarding item B, minor variance application A011/22 at 209 Sussex Avenue be approved, subject to terms and conditions in the staff report.
Moved by member Gossi, seconded by member Master. All in favor? I see 4 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Good night. Our next application is application A009/22 at 178 Stephen Street. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
And as I recall, this has come back to us. We've seen this previously, so I will ask our applicant to go ahead, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Good evening, committee. I hope you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. It was a problem last time. My name is Max Merchason, and I represent the homeowners for 178 Stephen Street. We're asking to approve 1 side yard setback, and we're proposing 1.16 meters instead of 1.20. The deficiency is 0.04 meters for secondary unit access.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 178 Stephen Street?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
And any further comments from planning?
No further comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Duretzi.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I would move that minor variance application A009/22 at 178 Stephen Street be approved, subject to the terms and conditions in the city's staff report.
Moved by member Duretzi, seconded by member Gossi. All in favor? I see 4 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Our next application is application B009/22 at 30 High Tech Road. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
And our applicant.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Good evening. We can hear you.
Hi, my name's Dave Charazenko. I'm a planning consultant with Bousfield. We're agents to Salt Whistle Bay Properties. the owner of 30 High Tech, as well as the remainder of the plaza at the northeast corner of High Tech and Yonge Street. This evening, before you have applications for consent, there's two involved. One is a partial discharge of a mortgage in favor of the Sun Life Insurance Company over a portion of that plaza, 30 High Tech, which is roughly the outline of the Milestones restaurant and the parking lot across the driveway. And also the registration of a collateral charge in favor of the province. And the purpose of that is to assist in the future construction of the Yonge Street North subway system.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 30 High Tech Road?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Any further comments from Planning Department?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no further comments.
Thank you. Gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Master.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that application B009/22, located at 30 High Tech Road, be approved with all the conditions contained therein.
Moved by Member Master, seconded by Member Duretzi. All in favor? I see 4 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Our next application is application A083/21 at 64 Denham Drive. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
You, Mr. Chair, we do not.
And our applicant?
Yes, hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Good evening.
Thank you, committee. Good evening. My name is Richard Lee Brack. I'm an architect in Toronto, representing my client at 64 Denham Drive. The application is fairly self-explanatory. I apologize for the phone ringing. It is for a variance to the height of an accessory structure in the backyard beside a pool. I don't think there's much that I'd like to add. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have some.
Very good. Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 64 Denham Drive?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
And any further comments from planning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no further comments.
Gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? I see none. In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Gossi.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to raise a motion to approve item E, minor variance application A083/21 at 64 Denham Drive, subject to terms and conditions in the staff report.
Moved by Member Gossi, seconded by Member Master. All in favor? I see 4 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Good evening. Our next application is application A028/22 at 108 Briggs Avenue. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Here, Mr. Chair, we have none.
And our applicant?
Good evening, everyone. Jeremy Williams here from IRC Group. I'm representing the client on this particular variance. The request is to provide relief from the provisions of bylaw 107-86 as amended to permit an increased maximum building height exception to accommodate the installation of a proposed church steeple. So you have an existing church building. There was an existing masonry spire that is of similar height to a new prefabricated steeple, which we would like to mount to the roof of the church. The existing difference between the previous masonry spire and the new roof-mounted steeple is approximately 2'4". The deficiency in terms of the maximum building height variance is just under 7 feet. So it's very minor dimensionally. Just in terms of the primary elevation of the church, there's no other landscaping changes or things like that. Very minor proposal here. There's some visuals which I did send through, which I imagine you've seen in advance of this, so I won't ask for those to be pulled up, but I'll take any additional questions, comments, concerns at this time.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 108 Briggs Avenue?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
And any further comments from our planning department?
No further comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? I'll entertain a motion. But Mr. Duretzi.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I would move that minor variance application A028/22 at 108 Briggs Avenue be approved, subject to the terms and conditions in the city staff report.
Moved by member Duretzi, seconded by member Gossi. All in favor? It's approved. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Good evening. Our next application is application B008/22 at 29 Naughton Drive. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
And our applicant.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Adam Layton of Evans Planning. I'm here on behalf of the owner of 29 Naughton Drive. We are presenting a lot line adjustment this evening. We have provided a slide deck, but in the interest of brevity, I can simply say we've reviewed the conditions of consent approval in the staff report. We have no issues either way. We support the recommendations of staff, but otherwise I'd be happy to walk through the proposal and the history of this particular site.
Okay.
Okay, so the committee may recall considering several consents on this property going back to 2019. It was in July 2019 where a zoning bylaw amendment was approved for the properties that were formerly known as 31, 29, and 25 Naughton Drive. 29 being the property in the middle highlighted in red on this slide. If we could go down to the next slide. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment was to permit the ultimate development of 7 new detached lots with minimum frontages of 12 meters, minimum lot areas of 360 square meters, as well as special provision for the the height of a porch encroachment. 4 of the properties were created through prior consents in November 2019. At the time, it was not possible to do the remaining 3 lots consisting of 25 and 29 Naughton Drive. The ownership has now changed for 29 Naughton Drive, allowing us to undertake this lot line adjustment. As a result, in the future, I'm sure you could expect to see another consent application to facilitate the creation of the last 2 remaining lots from the enlarged 25 Naughton Drive. Next slide, please. The proposed consent is shown on the screen. Essentially, we're taking a 1.5 meter strip of land from 29 Naughton Drive and adding it to the adjacent property at 25 Naughton Drive. Both the subject and the retained property and the lands to be enlarged would exceed the minimum frontage and area provisions of the bylaw. And if you could scroll down, this just shows the ultimate lot fabric that would be established through this consent and then the ultimate future consent of 25 Naughton Drive. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 29 Naughton Drive?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
And any further comments from planning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no further comments.
Gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? I see none. I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Master.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that application B008/22 is located at 29 Naughton Drive be approved with all the conditions contained therein.
Moved by member Master, seconded by member Duretzi. All in favor? I see 4 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a pleasant evening.
Good evening. Our next application is application A012/22 at 332 Richmond Street. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, we received a TRCA comment letter on May 24th, 2022, and we received a comment letter from 66 Leisure Lane, received June 21st, 2022.
Thank you. And our applicant.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. It's Peter Giordano. I'm with David Small Designs. We're the designers and authorized agents for this property. If you would indulge me, I have a small presentation. If I could ask Jamie to put it on the screen. Perfect. Can you go to slide 2, please? We're here today requesting your consideration on 3 variances. It's been quite the journey in approvals as we spent months working with TRCA on the exact details of this home. Very restrictive flooding criteria resulted in a crawl space below the main floor that cannot contain habitable space, mechanical, electrical equipment of any kind. What you see here today is the net result of those in-depth discussions. We now have approval in principle from TRCA for this design. Next slide, please. Context map and aerial image shows the property. It's an infill lot positioned in the rear yards of the adjacent properties with a tributary from Mill Street Park Pond passing through on the west side, as you can see by the blue line on your screen. Next slide, please. Slide 4 provides you with a summary of the variance items. The item bubbled with the number 1 requests a reduction in the front yard setback from 6.1 to 3.59 meters. This oddly shaped lot tapers as it reaches the street. The front yard setback requirement for this property is the average of the 2 adjacent neighboring homes, or 6.1 meters, whichever is the most restrictive. That red dashed line that you'll see on the screen connects the minimum front lot lines from the left neighbor to the right neighbor. That would be our front yard setback, but the more restrictive is the 6.1, and that's where our variance item of 3.59 is required. Planning comments provide a good rationale supporting this variance request. Item number 2 is directly related to item number 1. It controls the amount of projection allowed from the front wall overhang projecting into the front yard setback. Same argument for item number 1 applies to this item. And then the last item is item number 3. It's the driveway variance width. Driveway and garage attempt to be sensitive to the large tree grouping in the front corner and the property and to the streetscape. The side-loaded garage provides a more attractive streetscape, as can be seen on the next slide, slide number 7. No, one more, please. 3D of the front. It shows the front yard. It faces the facade that relates to the street. The garage is side-loaded. The width of the driveway is measured from the front corner of the house to the paving towards the porch, and that's where the width, garage driveway width comes into play. Staff report finds all 3 items pass the 4 tests of Section 45 of the Planning Act. We're as of right with the primary features of the home, building height, floor area, coverage are all in conformance, even though the flooding restrictions would not allow for a functional basement space. All these spaces are forced above grade, but we managed to find the space on lots without floor area or coverage requirements. We believe our proposals to be acceptable and appropriate, maintain the intent and purpose of the bylaws. We hope you agree. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 332 Richmond Street?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have none.
Any further comments from our planning department?
No further comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Gossi. Hang on one second. We see, well, there's Carlo. Okay. There we go. All right. Mr. Gossi.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to raise a motion to approve minor variance application A012/22 at 332 Richmond Street, subject to terms and conditions in the staff report.
Moved by member Gossi, seconded by member Master. All in favor? I see 4 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Have a great night.
You have a good evening too, sir.
Thank
Good
you.
night. And I'll turn this back over to our secretary treasurer to let us know when we can conclude the additional business items.
Okay, I will be back.